More than $1 billion have been funneled into Senate races across the country for both Republicans and Democrats. But it's the GOP which is feeling especially bullish about their chances of taking back the majority, and one look at the map shows why. A source familiar with the campaign tells Spectrum News that when Vice President Kamala Harris takes this stage tonight, she's going to have three main objectives. First, to share her story. So expect her to talk a lot about her upbringing and her time as a prosecutor in California. Netanyahu does have planned meetings happening over the next couple of days. Tomorrow, meeting with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. And then on Friday is going to be meeting with the former President Donald Trump. So I think that there is an effort underway for Netanyahu to try and keep the conversation going with whoever wins. At one point, I turned over to a colleague here and I said, you know, there haven't been a lot of fireworks. It's perhaps even a little bit sleepy. And I think that's really the point here when you have a vice presidential debate, because rule number one of a vice presidential debate is do no harm. It's a historic moment that we're talking about. There's not been an impeachment of a cabinet secretary for 148 years. 1876 was the last time that we saw something like this. Here at the White House, they're now raising the alarm about a possible escalation in the war in Ukraine, saying they now have evidence that North Korea is providing ballistic missiles to Russia and that Iran is in negotiations to do the same.
I think that's job number one for him. He needs to introduce himself, so we're going to hear a lot about his bio. I think he's going to talk about his time as a coach. He's going to talk about his time as a high school teacher. He's going to talk about his 24 years in the National Guard.
And it probably won't surprise you that building a monument here on the National Mall is not cheap. In fact, estimates are that it's going to cost some $80 million, all of it from private donations. This is the new filing from Special Counsel Jack Smith. It's massive, 165 pages. And in it, federal prosecutors argued that Trump's alleged crimes were done in his private capacity, not as president. There's no denying it's a divisive time in politics. But here at the ballpark, just about a mile south of the Capitol, those partisan differences seem far away. At least for just a couple of hours, it's all about tradition, bipartisanship, and of course, baseball. I spoke with an activist who was underwhelmed because they were saying, why not full decriminalization? Why not legalization? So why stop at just scheduling it down?
Does the Biden administration see this as sort of the next big frontier of this abortion fight?
How realistic is a two-state solution in this moment when obviously things are so divisive? If he brings that to the floor, it wouldn't trigger the motion debate.
You're asking me the same question that I've just told you I'm not going to answer.
If that's a no, it won't, or yes, it will.
I'm not going to answer a question. I'm just not giving that deadline.
Donald Trump is no friend to labor.
This is a woman that doesn't have a clue. Frankly, I think they should put back Biden.
The two presidential candidates trading jabs as they barnstorm across Michigan. Vice President Kamala Harris holding rallies in Grand Rapids, Lansing, and the Detroit suburbs, while former President Trump sat down for a roundtable in Auburn Hills before rallying in Detroit. Michigan will likely play a crucial role this November. Trump won it by a razor-thin margin in 2016 before it was flipped by President Joe Biden in 2020. Harris pitching herself as the best candidate to protect manufacturing jobs and support unions.
I will invest in manufacturing communities like Kent County.
Trump, meanwhile, outlined his plan for massive tariffs on foreign goods like cars to promote more manufacturing in the U.S.
We're not going to have them building them in other countries, sending them into the United States, taking all those jobs.
Harris also seizing on recent reports that Trump has canceled media interviews because of exhaustion, which Trump has vehemently denied.
Well, if you are exhausted on the campaign trail, it raises real questions about whether you are fit for the toughest job in the world.
I'm not even tired. I'm really exhilarated. She doesn't go to any events. She's a loser.
Harris also getting some backup on the campaign trail. Former President Barack Obama stumping for Harris in Arizona.
He doesn't care if he costs more women their reproductive freedoms because it won't make a difference in his life. Do not boo. Vote.
Meanwhile, early voting is kicking off in other swing states, including North Carolina.
There seems to be a real energy in North Carolina.
Officials reported a record 350,000 people cast ballots on Thursday in the first day of early voting. And over the weekend, Harris will be campaigning with some celebrities, stumping with the singer Lizzo in Detroit, then appearing in Atlanta with Usher. Trump, meanwhile, plans to make 2 stops in another battleground, Pennsylvania. In Washington, I'm Evan Koslof, Spectrum News.
I like this.
At the Spectrum newsroom in Los Angeles, one of our broadcast engineers is about to get a makeover of sorts, all thanks to deepfake technology.
Every face is indeed different.
Just watch as it's used to transform our test subject into Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg. Now take a look as he's morphed into Scarlett Johansson.
Oh wow, this is not bad.
Even President Joe Biden is possible, although he might need a new haircut to really pull it off.
It's good to be the president.
The deepfakes were put together by a visual effects company called VFX Los Angeles. The company's founder and CEO, Izzy Traub,
There's always that kind of wow moment.
and the head of creative, Charles H. Jocelyn, telling us this presentation just scratches the surface. With better lighting, more cameras, and a more realistic body double, they say these deepfakes can be highly sophisticated, undetectable to the human eye.
We're at the stage now where we are pushing the limits of what it can do.
This is me then.
And Traub says that this technology has been a game changer in Hollywood, enabling directors to de-age actors such as they did here with Jennifer Lopez, or shoot scenes without actors. But there's no denying that this new technology could also create new threats.
I think there's real risk for personal defamation, revenge.
I think corporate warfare, marital problems between people.
And there's growing concern about deepfake technology being misused in politics, creating fake videos to manipulate your vote. And we're already starting to see it.
It's important that you save your vote for the November election.
New Hampshire Democrats got this call back in January. It sounded like a message from President Joe Biden, urging them to sit out of the presidential primary. But the problem is that it was a deepfake. A political consultant is now facing more than 24 criminal charges for allegedly creating it. Do you feel like you're in a battle to try and keep up?
Yes, every day.
Engineering professor Ed Delp is a deepfake researcher, part of a team funded by the Pentagon, developing detection software. And he says that this has become an arms race.
The people making these tools are getting better and better, and then we got to get better and better to detect them.
How we can find what is real, what is fake.
Delp says that there have been major advances. For example, Intel created a tool called Fake Catcher, which analyzes video pixels to detect deepfakes. Intel says that it has a 96% success rate. And artificial intelligence, part of the problem, could also be part of the solution, using it to train computers to detect abnormal human behavior. We're training robots to recognize a human better than our eyes and our brain.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's happening. That's the world we live in now.
And it's a world that's raising alarm bells on Capitol Hill, prompting new attempts to regulate this new technology. In the House, a bipartisan proposal calls for new deepfake guidelines, including possible requirements on AI developers to better label deepfake video. And in the Senate, another bipartisan pitch would essentially ban deceptive AI material in political ads. Neither bill has gotten a vote so far.
Still make some adjustments.
Meanwhile, back in Los Angeles, the demo continues. Our model now transformed into Elon Musk. All this a preview of what could be in our future, a world where it's harder to know what's real and what's not.
They will be a lot more ubiquitous, and they will be scaringly accurate, and they will be within reach, within a thumb's push.
In Washington, I'm Evan Koslof, Spectrum News.
You know, it's an open drug market here.
Barb Williamson is walking us through the Kensington neighborhood of Philadelphia. She runs The Way of Life, a network of recovery and sober living homes.
So we come down here monthly and we try to feed the people. We try to help them get wound care.
It's an effort that's personal for Williamson. After all, she was an addict herself until she got clean a dozen years ago.
I know if I can get sober, anyone can.
Now, Williamson is sounding an alarm about a dangerous new substance called xylazine.
The drug is called xylazine.
It's an emerging deadly drug threat.
The powerful animal sedative, sometimes called tranq, causes a strong high and can lead to severe wounds and the rotting of skin by the injection site. It could even lead to amputations. And unlike opioids, tranq does not respond to the overdose reversing drug Narcan.
People would be coming into detox and the medication that was given to them wasn't working. It's so sad to see. They're just waiting to die.
And stories like these from big cities and small towns across the country are getting the attention of lawmakers in Washington, and that includes right here at the White House.
If we thought fentanyl was dangerous, the combination of fentanyl with xylazine or tranq has made it much more lethal and much more destructive.
Dr. Rahul Gupta runs the Office of National Drug Control Policy and says the numbers show that xylazine is becoming a nationwide problem. The Drug Enforcement Administration provided Spectrum News with new numbers showing that xylazine has been found in 48 states and D.C., and that it was detected in 30% of all the fentanyl powder that the DEA tested last year. And mixing the substances often has deadly consequences. Preliminary numbers from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show over 5,600 people died from overdoses, including xylazine, in the 12 months leading up to September of last year. That was a jump of nearly 30% from the year before. To address this emerging threat, the White House released a national plan last summer.
There's definitely work to go, but I could tell you without the designation, we would not be where we are today.
Gupta says through this national plan, they've been able to unlock grant money for research and for xylazine test strips. He also says that the plan has empowered law enforcement, giving them more authority to intercept xylazine at ports of entry. Gupta says they're also looking into changing how xylazine is classified. Right now, it's approved for use by the Food and Drug Administration for veterinary use. That's despite the possible dangers.
Let's do this with a sense of urgency. I would have liked to seen it done yesterday.
And there are new efforts to address tranq on Capitol Hill as well.
Hey man, I'll take a common sense bill any day of the week.
Late last year, the Tranq Act, sponsored by freshman lawmaker Mike Collins, was signed into law, ordering an increase in research of xylazine. And this year, another bill called the Stop Tranq Act. It's been proposed in the Senate and would require the State Department to better track where the drug is coming from.
Multiple spots all up and down Kensington Avenue.
Back in Philadelphia, Williamson is hopeful that this growing awareness in Washington will make a difference in her community.
There needs to be more help.
In Washington, I'm Evan Koslof, Spectrum News.